Hi, you're welcome back to the continuation of our course. So this time around we're going to talk in details about time classifications as well as some other things you need to put into considerations when trying to master progress in any categories of life in relation to goals as well in relation to deliverables. Earlier we talked about time as one of those resources which needs to be allocated appropriately to be able to achieve your goals or achieve your objectives. Now, when you're trying to set the goals, when you're trying to ensure deliverables in relation to your goals, you want to have two things in mind. When it comes to time, you want to ensure that you split your time towards ensuring efficiency as well as high productivity. I earlier on mentioned that there are goals in which if you actually allocate them to be done in the morning, you might not be able, let's take for instance, it's a goal you can achieve within one day. Let's say within 8 hours or so. If you begin to allocate those tasks to be stated for being done in the morning, you realize a whole week you might not be able to achieve those goals. And there are some goals in which ordinarily you can easily achieve in the morning. In the afternoon, when you put them in the afternoon, you might not be able to achieve those goals. It might take you 1 week, 2 weeks. When you keep saying you will do this task in the afternoon, you might not be able to achieve it in the afternoon because perhaps your system isn't, trying to achieving social goals within the afternoon. Perhaps in the afternoon, you might have get a little bit tired. And these are tasks that actually needs you to be in a high state of energy, to be in the right frame of mind. And if you don't put those factors in mind, you will be allocating, you might be misallocating your time, which could be described as time misappropriation sort of. That is, time being one of your resources, you aren't allocating it very well. And there are some tasks in which you can always achieve in the evening or perhaps in the night. So you want to ask yourself what time of the day you would like to achieve some certain task. And that entails when you're coming up with tasks to achieve or goals to achieve, you want to ask yourself which times of the day will be much more convenient. There are some people in which they've actually not been able to have a regular routine of perhaps exercise because the times they are allocating for it isn't so conducive. Some perhaps if they allocate night, let's say 8 o'clock or 9 p.m. to go around and jog, you realize they might be setting that time recurrently and they might not be able to achieve it. And this is because the time isn't appropriate for their body systems or perhaps for their system to be able to deliver those deliverables, to ensure the deliverable of those goals. So you want to ask yourself, what time is much more convenient for the actualizations of your goals. When you're able to understand the time, the day or the times during the day, is it the morning, is it the afternoon or the night? You want to take into the consideration the focus hours, that is, how many hours do you want to dedicate for this task? And how many hours do you want to reflect on this task? Take for instance, there have been instances in which some, let's say, they want to engage in some certain task. Take for instance, they want to do a task and that task might entail 2 hours. You realize when you take 30 minutes, out of these 2 hours, to reflect on how well they're going to start and finish the task, they will be able to achieve those tasks easily within that 2 hours, and they would as well be able to, they might be able to achieve it before that 2 hours. As compared to someone who within that 2 hours, he or she just goes straight, I'm having these 2 hours to achieve this task. The person just went into the task and started doing the task. He might have to they might not be able to record much more sources. Funny enough, they might have to spend more than that 2 hours. As compared to someone who actually take time and leverage on solitude, reflect on how he's going to start the task, how he's going to finish it. He kind of visualize the initial phase and the finished phase and the objective he's going to achieve at the end. So he or she will definitely be able to achieve much success. So when trying to allocate time to any of your goals or your deliverables, you want to ensure that you allocate focus time as well as reflection time. Perhaps you want to focus on these tasks for like 1 hour. I mean, you're dedicating 2 hours, but out of 2 hours, you're reflecting for 2 hours. I mean, for 30 minutes. And before you realize it, you won't be able to achieve those tasks within 1 hour or less, because you already visualized the procedural steps towards actualizing your objective. So you want to take into consideration the importance of morning task, the importance of afternoon task, the importance of night task. And when you're able to do that, before you realize it, you might actually be achieving more success while allocating your time, resources effectively. And there have been instances in which sometimes in the afternoon, some might have to like take a little bit of pause, or a little bit of pause to reflect, or a little bit of meditations to regain their energy. And that's where energy allocations as well comes in. You want to see some of those things, you can always leverage on to boost your energy. It could be a little bit of meditations, or perhaps it could be a little bit of relaxation, just for 5 minutes to take a nap and regain more of your strength before you proceed. So you want to ensure that you leverage your time appropriately so as to be able to achieve much more success in relation to the achievement of your goals and making progress in nearly every categories of life. Aside time classifications, there are some other interesting things which you need to have in mind. The attention as well as goal classifications. I earlier on mentioned in the areas of resources management or resources allocations. The attention is one of the resources which one wants to take into consideration. You want to ask yourself when you're trying to achieve a goal, what is your focus plan? There are some people, they can't stay focused for more than 1 hour. And there are some people, they can stay focused for up to 4 hours. And there are some people in which they can always stay focused amidst any form of distractions. While there are some people, they can't stay focused amidst any little bit of distractions. So when you're trying to achieve certain goals, you want to put these into considerations. What are your focus plan? And if you are having a focus plan of 1 hour, and you go ahead and stay within an environment where it's kind of, it's going to deprive you of focus, then before you realize it, you might not be able to achieve those goals within 1 hour. So you want to ensure that you leverage on your focus plan. You do a little bit of self-awareness and ask yourself what's your focus plan. And thus you want to utilize it as a vital tools towards achieving your goals. Also, you want to take a close look at your assimilation period. That is, how well can you digest things? You can stay focused, and your focus time could be more like 1 hour. And the fact that you are focusing on something doesn't mean you are actually assimilating those things or grasping those things in details. You might be able to stay focused for 1 hour, and perhaps your assimilation period might just be for like 45 minutes or perhaps less than that. So you want to ensure that you leverage on that. Take for instance, there are instances in which when people want to stay focused on some certain things, they might take the first 30 minutes. Let's assume they have a task for 1 hour. They've been able to know that they can stay focused for 1 hour. They have a focus plan of 1 hour. But their assimilation period is 30 minutes. So what they do is, they work for like 30 minutes, and let's say for instance they are studying, they could study for 30 minutes and reflect on those things they've studied and understand that is digest those things. That's where the assimilation comes in. And thereafter they take a step further and go ahead and leverage on the other 30 minutes to ensure their focus plan. And that doesn't mean after the focus plan of 1 hour, if they take a break for 30 minutes and they come back, perhaps they regain their strength, they could meditate, they could do whatever it is, then take another 30 minutes and another 1 hour of focus plan, they would be able to achieve much. As compared to instances when such one just stays without putting into consideration his or her assimilation period, he or she doesn't put into consideration his or her focus plan, and just start engaging in tasks, perhaps studying for 3 hours, only to realize that he has actually only been able to achieve something within the first 30 minutes, and the remaining 2.5 hours were just more of a wasted time. So no doubt about the fact that assimilation periods and focus plans has a major role to play when it comes to attentions and goals classifications. So you want to ensure that your space as well as environment as well is put into considerations when you're trying to achieve any goals. when you're trying to achieve any objective, you want to put into consideration the environment. Is the space conducive enough for you to be able to attain focus or to maintain your attention or perhaps your assimilation period? To be able to assimilate things and focus effectively. You want to leverage on that as well and be able to achieve success. So your space, your environment, you want to ensure you keep it free from distractions, most especially when you know that you would not be able to achieve your goals or deliverables amidst any form of distractions. And when you talk of goals as well as projects, it is always important to have it in mind that your goals, there are various goals, which some are value-based, and while some in one way or the other might not be some value, that might not be value-based. So you want to see how best you want to leverage on your goals. You want to classify your goals in relation to value-based and those that are not in relation to value-based. And thus begin to see how best to utilize those goals to achieve your purpose or perhaps achieve your objective. Because in the raw sense, you might have some visions for yourself, which you one way or the other might want to achieve. Let's assume you're working on a project, and you might have to go ahead and spend some time with perhaps your friends. It's not as if you want to do some certain things together that will contribute to progress in one way or the other. Or perhaps you just want to have a casual coffees and all of this. When you are in the midst of a project, no doubt about the fact that one is more of a value-based and while the other one is not more of a value-based goal sort of. So you might want meeting with your friend having coffee, that's not a big deal. But you want to ensure that you give priority to value-based projects as compared to those projects or those goals that are not value-based. Let's take, for instance, you might want to have a coffee with a friend. You wouldn't want to have coffee with a friend in the time when you know that you can utilize those times to be able to achieve much more. You want to know, okay, which of those times are you less productive? And you want to give consideration to, those are times you want to leverage on to be able to, you want to allocate those times for coffees, for your friends, because during those periods, you are not going to achieve much more progress, or you would not be much more productive on your task or perhaps on your project during those periods. Then you leverage on those times, you always realize that those times which you would be less productive are those times you kind of give out to be able to do some other things which are, I wouldn't say relationship is in non-value, but more of non-value-based project. Aside that as well, you want to talk about those things. Like take for instance, you might want to do things like this in the evening or perhaps at night, such a way that you would know that you are prioritizing value-based projects and those projects or goals which are not more valuable ones. Which are non-value-based. So. Also, we have emotions. You want to leverage on your emotions. Emotions is very powerful, as I've earlier mentioned. It set a whole lot of tune, most especially when it comes to how well you achieve success and how well you sustain success. It's more of a bedrock. It's one of the bedrock for building identity, and you want to leverage on it. And as well as one of the bedrock for achieving success. You want to leverage on your emotions effectively. And when you're trying to achieve some certain goals, it is always important to set intentions right. What are the intentions here? What are the goals you want to achieve there? And thus you want to prime your emotions towards achieving those goals. And when you're able to do that, before you realize it, you won't be able to record success over a long period of time. So you want to set the intentions. And this involves your emotions. What are the emotions you need to put into this game? What are the emotions you need to put into this task? And most especially those high priority tasks, you want to ensure that you put in the needed emotions, you put in the needed passions, and before you realize it, you will be enjoying those things you're doing and begin to record success on it. But when there are no passions, when you're not leveraging on your emotions effectively, in one way or the other, it might be hindering the progress of your project or perhaps the categories of life which in one way or the other you might want to master progressions. Also, it is always important to be in the present, that is to be in the now. And that would as well aid your intentions. You want to be in the now, you want to stay focused and as well reflect. How best can I bring my emotions into these games and as well be able to record much success? Also, you want to leverage and play your triggers. What are those things that would as well keep you going in enjoying the task or the project you're engaging in? It could be some very cool music, and you want to leverage on that as well. There are instances in which some people actually performs well, most especially when they're listening to music. You might want to put on your earpiece, listen to cool music that will be able to boost your morale. It could be more of an inspiration book, or perhaps you might want to even be reading books or listening to audio books, if that's one of your favorites. And before you realize it, you will be achieving your goals. There are some tasks, ordinarily they are they're not so easy to go by or to achieve. So you want to ensure that you put in place needed things that will help you to achieve those tasks, because some tasks will be very boring, or some goals might be very boring to achieve. But because this is the goals with a deliverable, this time around you've actually stipulated dates and time for you to achieve those goals, then you want to ensure that you bring in pleasure into the task. And though it could be boring, but you want to leverage on your emotions, see how best you optimize, you ensure your emotions make offsets for those boring tasks and all of that. Thus, such a way that when you're engaging on the task, your emotions will be on the high side and you will enjoy the pleasure associated with delivering your goals. So you want to as well try as much as you can to avoid negative emotion variations. When you talk of negative emotion variations, you talk of those emotions associated with stress. Stress, when you're being stressed, you just realize in one way or the other that your effort is often resulting, your effort in one way or the other might not be yielding the needed result. So you want to avoid stress or futility. You want to as well avoid frustrations. When you're getting frustrated, you want to take a pause and ask yourself, why are you getting frustrated? And you want to take a switch back and do things that would not be more of frustrating but more of uplifting. Also, you want to as well avoid anxiety, which has to do with unnecessary worries about some certain things. There are instances in which people might want to engage in some certain tasks, but the anxiety of not getting accurate results in one way or the other often pulls negative emotions on them. And before you realize it, they wouldn't be able to record much more success. So you want to ensure that you avoid any form of anxiety, such a way that you would not be hindering the success of your task or the success of your project. Worries as well is another thing. Worries and anxieties, they go hand in hand. You don't want to get unnecessarily worried about things which in one way or the other has actually not taken place. And if you are getting worried about some certain things in the past, you want to take a switch and ask yourself, which categories of your life is this affecting? Is it something that is emanating from your financial aspect of life, or is it something that is emanating from your family aspect of life, or perhaps is it something that is emanating from your hobby areas of life? And you want to take a deep dive into the cause of that worry and make a swap immediately to things or to positive emotions, such a way that you will be able to keep recording success. That is, you want to make a swap from one categories of life to other categories of life. If perhaps you're having stress or having worries in areas of your hobby, why not take a swap into your family aspect of life and think towards those things that are giving you happiness and you keep making progress. Also, defeats. In one way or the other, there are instances in which people often get defeated, and they often tend to associate with it. No doubt about the fact that defeat in one way or the other doesn't bring positive emotions. But irrespective of that, you want to try as many as you can. You ask yourself, which categories of my life is this affecting? And thus you want to make a swap into the other category of life and leverage on those successes you wish you have actually accomplished in one way or the other, keep making progress. Then you want to talk about despair, which as well in one way or the other is rooted down in defeat or perhaps any form of discouragement. You want to as well avoid such emotions. And you want to avoid the fears. There are instances in which people get fearful in many instances. And these are sort of negative emotions which you want to ensure you check yourself at all times to ensure that you are not projecting out negative emotions. You are not subjecting your emotional dominant to the negative emotions. Aside this, we also talk about accountability, group members, or goal formula. When we talk about teams generally, it is always important when you're trying to master progress in any categories of life. It is important to have to have a team partner, to have people which you can always work along with, that will be able to help you to achieve your success or perhaps achieve your goals. And thus you want to ask yourself, how many team members or accountability partners do you need? To some people, one partner might be enough. To some other people, two partners might be enough. And those accountability partners would go a long way to always serve as metrics for them to be able to keep making progress. You could tell your accountability partner, this is the goal you want to achieve. Could the person be of help towards serving as sort of check, such a way that he or she can always check up on you and like, oh wow, how is it going with your project? Are you actually meeting your deadlines? And are you actually achieving the results you desire? What's the objective? What role would you want me to play? I mean, what role will the person play? You need to give those details. So you want to ask yourself, how many accountability partners do you need? It all depends on the seriousness of your goals, or perhaps how well you would love to achieve those things as fast as possible. You might want to set up one or two accountability partners, or three. Then there are some people as well in which you might as well want to factor in the age. Those you want to have as your accountability partner, what are their age brackets? Are they people of your own age? Are they people who are elderly? People in one way or the other with whom you give high regards to? Such a way that you know when that project fails or when your goals falls, it wouldn't portray you. I mean, you wouldn't look to their face and say, oh, I mean, this thing actually failed. And before you realize it, you might actually be making a good decision. So you want to factor in the age. What age bracket do you want to put into considerations when it comes to achieving your goals and as well achieving your objective? And lastly, you want to consider the gender. What are the genders of people you want to as well put into considerations when it comes to achieving your goals, those accountability partners? There are some people they wouldn't love to fail. Let's assume some males who are females that they are accountability partner. They could prefer a female because they wouldn't want to be a failure. I mean, how would I tell my sister that I actually didn't achieve these goals? Or how would I tell my friend who's of the opposite sex that I actually started this goal and I couldn't achieve it? So it's going to sound a little bit of an embarrassment, and thus they want to leverage on people of the opposite gender who is more of their friends, or perhaps who is more of their elderly ones, or perhaps, more of their elderly ones. And before you realize it, they will be having those goals achieved. And perhaps it could be a female, or it could be the same genders, and like, okay, this is my brother, this is my elderly brother, and I know I have high regards for my brother. And my brother as well knows that, I mean, he has always served as my model. You want to look who are your role models. Those ones as well could serve as accountability partner towards you achieving your goals. So now, what are the goal success formula? One thing you need to understand is, it is important to set priorities. And your priorities should be more of a functions of, it should be in respect to your resources. That is, those resources at your disposition. How well you want to allocate those resources. You talk about time, you talk about days, and you talk about your attentions and other resources which are crucial towards you attaining your success. And thus you want to organize those priorities. Take for instance, you want to attain some certain goals, say 10 goals within the year. No doubt about the fact that those goals should be organized in areas of priorities. And when those goals are organized in areas of priority, there is a high possibility of you achieving those goals over the long period of time. And also, you want to prioritize, you want to have priority-based executions. Not only do you want to set tasks based on priority, not only do you want to organize those priorities, you as well want to prioritize, you want to have priority-based executions. You want to execute them on a daily basis in relation to their priority. And that as well should go a long way in relation to what we've actually mentioned, that is those resources allocations. When you talk about the time, when you talk about the specific hours of the day, how will you leverage on your time? How will you leverage on your focus as well as your reflection period? And before you realize it, you would actually be achieving success when it comes to mastering your progress, or when it comes to mastering success or progress in areas of your goals. So now let's talk about personal leadership mastery. When it comes to personal leadership mastery, there are some certain things you need to put in mind. And first has to do with self-awareness. You need to have high level of self-awareness. And that high level of self-awareness that's more of the first steps you need to leverage on. You want to listen to yourself. You want to be able to listen to yourself, listen to your emotions, listen to your feelings, and ask yourself, what is the significance of your emotions, your feelings towards whatever it is you want to do. And before you realize it, you will actually be leveraging or recording success in areas of personal leadership. There have been instances in which people have actually subjected their intrapersonal relationship to randomness. That is, they've actually not been able to understand themselves in details. They've actually not been able to listen to their emotions, listen to their feelings, listen to everything that is associated with them. And no doubt about the fact that when people in one way or the other lack intrapersonal relationship, by extension, they would as well lack interpersonal relationship. So you want to ensure that you have a firm grip of your self-awareness, which is one of the bedrock for building personal leadership. And as soon as you're able to do that, you are opening up the path towards personal leadership. And also you want to have imaginations. You want to leverage on your imaginations. You want to be able to imagine scenarios such a way that it's tailored towards what you would want to achieve at the end of the day. And when you're actually doing that, in one way or the other, you are having full grips of your self-masteries. Also, conscience is another thing you want to leverage on. Conscience is very important. And in one other course, in one other course of ours, we'll talk in details about the importance of conscience. Conscience entails, there are instances in which people have actually not been leveraging on their conscience. You should be able to have a high level of self-awareness and thus be able to come up with those things that are important towards you attaining your success and towards sustaining success. And you want to have those things which they are no-go areas when it comes to your success and when it comes to attaining success and sustaining success. And you want to highlight these things and actually map it on the conscience. Because when you map it on the conscience, invariably your conscience would help you to be able to avoid those things that aren't going to help you to achieve success, and as well those things that wouldn't help you to sustain success. But when instances when you map some certain things to your conscience as well would always place you on check and thus be able to help you in instances when you have to go off the rail. Your conscience will serve as checkmate and thus will keep you in the right track towards the imagined scenarios which you would love to attain in areas of your success and keep mastering success and keep recording progress in every categories of your life. So at this point, we've come to the conclusions of this course, and I have to say thank you for your time, sort of, which you've actually given out to enjoy our course at Fair Talent Network. We hope in our subsequent course we will be able to talk in details on how best we could contribute as well in areas of personal development. And always remember at Fair Talent Networks, we help in areas of personal development. We as well help in areas of business idea conception. And as well, we also help in areas of innovative transition. And if you feel we could be of help in these areas, we will be glad if you can reach out to us. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you some other time.